All right, another episode of Stand Tall. It is January 13th, and we are in the art of war, verse 15 out of chapter 6. And if we are able thus to attack an inferior force with a superior one, our opponents will be in dire straits. Fair enough. If we have the bigger force and we're able to attack, the enemy will lose. If we have more and they have less, we will win. Let's go over to an alternate translation real quick and see what insight we can glean. Okay. Master Sun says, if you can strike few with many, you will thus minimize the number of those with whom you do battle. Seems pretty straightforward. Dumu reflects on this while being deeply entrenched and highly barricaded, not allowing any information about yourself to become known. Go out and informlessly attacking and taking unfathomably. Harry and confuse enemies so that they divide their troops in fear, trying to cover themselves on all sides. It is like climbing a high mountain to spy on a citadel, seeing out from behind a veil. You will know all about the disposition of the enemy personnel, while the enemy cannot figure out your offense or defense. Therefore, you can be unified, while the enemy is divided. The power of those who are united is whole, while the power of those who are divided is reduced. By striking diminished power with whole power, it is possible to always win. Okay, so I like how Dumu really goes in on this from a lot of different perspectives. I think, like, for Master Sun Tzu, so few words, so I think what we need to focus on is, if you can strike few with many, if you can use the many times that you've won in your life to overcome the few doubts that you have in your head, you will always win because you will have the evidence that shows from your memory of you doing the work that these doubts don't mean anything. So the more you go through life and the more battles you fight and win, the more confident you get to quash these small little things that appear. Just like in the Daily Stoic, right? All of these obstacles. So speaking of, let's hop over to the Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday and Stephen Hanselman, going on to January 13th. Circle of control. We control our reasoned choice and all acts that depend on that moral will. What's not under our control are the body and any of its parts, our possessions, parents, siblings, children, or country, anything with which we might associate. Epictetus Discourses 1.22.10, right? Okay. Right, so like what's in our control? Our reasoned choice and all acts that depend on the moral will, our choice, right? So just like Sun Tzu saying, and do mu more especially in the alternate translation of, you cannot be unified while the enemy is, like, you can be unified while the enemy is divided. Those who are united is whole, while the power of those who are divided is reduced. Okay, Harry in control, right? You're spying, climbing a high mountain to spy on the citadel. You know the enemy's disposition and their personnel. Okay, so like I'm butchering those words, but that's what's saying here is our perspective. It's our choice and the way that we choose to act upon that. This is important enough that it bears repeating. A wise person knows what's inside their circle of control and what is outside of it. The good news is that it's pretty easy to remember what is inside our control. According to the Stoics, the circle of control contains just one thing: your mind. That's right, even your physical body isn't completely within the circle. After all, you could be struck with a physical illness or impairment at any moment. You could be traveling in a foreign country and be thrown in jail. But this is all good news because it drastically reduces the amount of things that you need to think about. There's clarity and simplicity. While everyone else is running around with a list of responsibilities a mile long, things they're not actually responsible for, you've just got one item on that list. You've got just one thing to manage: your choices, your will, your mind. So mind it. And I think that's the important thing to take away from both of these. Is Sun Tzu spends so much time saying so many things about controlling the way that the battle goes, but it's also about how you perceive it. And in order to perceive it, you have to gain that perspective. And without that perspective, you can't ultimately be the master stoic and be the general for the warfare, right? To be what the art of war epitomizes, which is knowing all ways to do battle in order to not do battle.